Yes, but sometimes these laws, like the recent one about Aravalis, is still detrimental.
Development and environment per se, they are hand in glove with the developmental, larger development. Environment per se as a domain or as a topic, it is relatively, I would say, on a lower priority.
Environment is on a lower priority.
Lower priority. So what really happens is you can ask any citizen, he or she is buying a property, what is the priority? Location has to be good, property has to be good, the accessibility has to be good, the local economy has to be good. From the home perspective, the schools and hospitals and all these things. But nowhere in the conversation one would find that environment is on priority. Somehow I would look at the informality, the learning of the social systems. I think we want everything to be regimented by 0 and 1, whereas life isn't so easy. It's always a fuzzy mathematics, it moves in that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Form, Function, and Future, the podcast by Mahatma Education Society. In today's discussion, we are going to zoom out a little and look at this mammoth called the city. From the ancient Harappan civilizations to even the younger new ones like Chandigarh, Navi Mumbai, the city that we're sitting in right now, or even Amravati, we have experienced different nuances of city planning, from garden city concepts to sustainable cities, eco cities, smart cities, and so much more. And to really understand this magnitude of that is required to plan a city, we couldn't have anyone better with us than Mr. Kedarnath Rao Ghorpade, who is the former chief town planner at MMRDA. The best thing about him is, as from his experience, he actually looks at it from the bird's eye view of a geographer, as well as dives into the worm's eye view and the individual personal experiences that he has built through his negotiations with the city itself. So, thank you so much, Kedar sir, for joining us today. And we can't wait to really unravel and demystify this huge monster of cities that we've created around us.
Thank you very much, Sonam, and thank you to the Pillai College for getting me here. Um, I would rather put it this way that the path which I have treaded so far, right from Chandigarh to Navi Mumbai to Amravati to Gandhinagar and many other cities, right from the traditional cities of Thanjavur and Madurai and Krishnapalli, from where my family has a lineage. So I would look at that. There are two different kinds of scenarios which I have experienced. And then further, as a geographer, what I have realized is the canvas which was made available in the academics and subsequently as a planner. It gives great opportunities to be rational and be logical in building up the story of a city. So that's how I would say my sharing would depend upon.
Perfect. So, this
Thank you.
rational and logical direction that we need to take, I think I'm going to begin with and dive into this very controversial question that we always have, to planners, that why do we have to choose between development and environment? Even after 75 years of independence and all this time globally that we are really exploring town planning, we have not yet reached a stage where we can go hand in hand with nature. We have to choose either development or environment. Why is that the case?
I think the examples and the experience probably which is being promoted or being shared or being researched. Let's look at it this way that development and environment per se, they are hand in glove with the larger developmental process. And for instance, if we have to plan a city, so depends on where it is located and what is the physiography of that, what is the ecosystems of that. Accordingly, I think most of the planners and most of the decision makers create or design cities. And what emerges out of that is a kind of a long term, I would say, a decision, what it would look at it. For instance, if I have to give you a case study of Chandigarh, the Sukna Lake is kind of from the Shivaliks. It's a kind of a man-made a lake, which is actually captures most of the water which comes in here, and then it is created through various channels, and then it gets out of the city. So that's one example. The other I would create a contrast is country like Netherlands. I think it is fully built on a level which is lower than the sea. And what helps the city to do is they have created dikes, and that's what supports the entire thing. And they have canals and the natural features through which the city moves. And unlike, I would say, the standard cities or a land-based cities, Netherlands uses boats, and you have these waterways which I think cut across the city to a great extent. And giving you the reference of Netherlands to Navi Mumbai, I think Navi Mumbai is again a city which is much lower than the mean sea level. And then what we have done is we have created the designers in Circo and the decisions maker from the government have ensured that this city is protected with the help of dikes. And there are, I would say, uh, planning systems which have been introduced by building up these sewage pumping stations. So there is a consideration always at the back of the mind for any creator that whatever the creation is there, it doesn't fail or it doesn't have teething problems right at the start. So I would look at that, the city development per se. We have this kind of experience, and this is for a new city which is being planned. On the other hand, for instance, Mathiran within the Mumbai metropolitan region is declared as a eco-sensitive zone, and it's a city which is one of the unique ones in whole of Asia where no motors are allowed. So what we will look at the kind of features, the kind of parameters which was taken for both these cities are different. But the basic principle remains that it has to survive and it has to be congenial to the living for the people. But the squidness, you are planning something for a land based thing, so what will be the priority? And if you're looking for an eco sensitive and environment, then what will be the priority? So I think that consciously is there in all planners' mind. And I think that's how we are. We don't ignore per se, but it is considered. But only thing is the priority and the squareness may be slightly different.
Yeah,
That's all.
because I mean that was a very diplomatic answer, because when you look at the RA forest or the metro shed that was in contestation, or you look at the Hyderabad University and the forest behind it, you do have citizen mobility even closer home. The Lotus Pond in Navi Mumbai, and how although it is, like, if you look at it legally from a legal perspective, the pond was created. It is very much a artificial uh, uh, element that was created maybe 40 years back, and before that it did not come into existence. But there are people who are fighting for the rights of these natural elements against the rights of humans to live in these developed or to live in the comforts. Like a metro shed is supposed to give you better transportation and connectivity. Development at this Lotus Pond is supposed to give you more housing for the city, right? So we still do see these contestations in happening in an already existing cities. New cities is a different ball game altogether. But how do we then respond to these choices and preferences that we're making?
I think a good question. See, let me look at it from this angle that uh, environment per se as a domain or as a topic in the planning process or even in the decision making process or for even look at from the citizens point of view, it is relatively, I would say, on a lower priority.
Environment is on a lower priority.
Lower priority per se.
Hmm.
Like
So
for
what is on the
instance,
topmost
I'll,
priority?
I'll come back. So what really happens is you can ask any citizen, okay, when he or she is buying a property, what is the priority? First property is that location has to be good, property has to be good, the accessibility has to be good, the local economy has to be good, and along with that, from the home perspective, the schools and hospitals and all these things. But nowhere in the conversation, one would find that um, environment is on priority. Except when a builder sells a property, uh, he or she or the company per se may promote the value of environment, that it is located by overlooking the sea, the creek, a mountain, or whatever it is, and you will find fancy
Value of views and
value of
vistas.
views. Let's put it value of views. So I think it does have that priority in the system. But when it comes to people, and especially when we are building a city, so we have a critical mass which is planned or designed, and we are looking for, I would say, accommodating X number of people in a city, be it Navi Mumbai, Amravati, Gandhinagar, or any new city. So look at it from that angle, that the priority, or I would say the thought process, is more on accommodating people. And in the process, of course, we ensure that the natural elements, whichever is there during the planning process, they are taken care, because as per the planning process, one of the elements is the environmental impact assessment, which is necessary for clearing certain project either at the state level or at the central level. So from that angle, I would say that environment is there in the perspective. But what emerges is that how much do we give in, or how much do we accommodate. For instance, I will cite one example when we were doing a World Bank project at Charco, and the environment law was introduced in 1986. And this project had actually started somewhere in 1984 December with a retroactive financing. But ultimately we had to appoint a consultant for a particular parcel of land and take into elements of nature environment, and mangrove wasn't a topic to be considered or talked, or there was not so much of.
This was in 1980s.
1986, 87, and subsequently around 90s it came about, and we had engaged the government had engaged um, a firm which was expert in environment and ecological planning, and then accordingly the land distribution, the plot layout was reconfigured and redesigned. So I think we are sensitive, but only thing is one has to look at it, how much to give for a particular thing. Ultimately, it is the project economics which really matters for the success, either be the state or be the private sector. I think it is considered, but only thing is how much impact will it have on a particular uh, kind of a project, that needs to be kind of a. And I would rather again come back to that we designed and we have planned the Matharan eco-sensitive zone, and it is there, and it is uh, environment is considered. I won't say that it is isolated, but it is uh, uh, kind of per se included in the process, and there is law which says that you need to consider. So it's not a diplomatic answer; it's a clear legal situation which is there as of.
Yes, but sometimes these laws, like the recent one about Aravalis, is still detrimental. Like we cannot imagine what will happen to the rest of the subcontinent the moment the Aravallis, which block winds, which block dust storms from the northwestern provinces into the are completely taken away for construction development in it. And we've not just that, we've seen so many of our development looking at land as built forms of, or land for built forms and built values, rather than leaving them open, which is why most of the lakes have been filled, most of the wells have been filled, and you're looking at development from that perspective, unlike in ancient times where river valley civilizations or even temple towns had ponds and kunds that you revered and respected, and those resources were, considered as almost equal to god, and that is how you kind of built around them. Now you're building over them. So, and there are laws which allow you to do that as well. So,
I think let's look at planning. I would say per se. Let's accept. I would rather put it that way. It's a non-linear function, and I would look at it. Many times we tend to see that everything is identical. It's a flat land. Unfortunately, nature has not given anything flat to us. It has a contour. It has its own physiography. It has got its own biodiversity, its own ecosystems.
that's
And
what I expected from a geographer for like you to say. Yes.
so what really one has to look at it is how do we consider them? Let me share an example. Is Amravati capital city? We were involved as consultants, and we came back and produced a document to be implemented by the state. And the document is in public domain, and we were looking for Amravati as a water sensitive city. So, what do we mean by water sensitivity? Is we respect the water, starting with that, and deconcretization of the system. I would look at it from that angle, and simple concepts like bioswales, which you find in many foreign countries along the roads, so that water which is falling on the ground is not moved straight into a drain without any friction. So the bioswales acts as an absorbent, and they create systems which would ensure that the plantation and the natural landscape which is around, it takes care of that. And this is, I think, was suggested. As consultants, we had done that, and we had an Australian firm also with us. And what we realized is it was somehow, I would look at that, with due respects to my fellow engineers and architects and planners too. Somehow we find that anything linear, anything straight, is very good to manage in terms of geometry and civil engineering composition, or maybe architecture, design wise. Whereas if you see the traditional cities, they are designed with contours. There is no standard plot, no standard design. And let's look at that from a perspective of a tourist. Any standard block, same with the same glass cladding building, be it Berlin, be it India, be it Netherlands, be it any city, you have the same brand, same thing, and everything is maybe is the same architect too. So what we are looking for is it's becoming over standardized rather than getting into the local um, environment. When I say environment in a much larger cultural perspective and understanding of the social norms and other things. For instance, if you study Ahmedabad, the old city, or any old city in India, now you have these poles. So, do we have that as part of the planning system in new areas? We are not looking for that. And let's look at just an adjoining city of Gift City. And what you find there is a standard system which is driven by technology and which is driven by products which is available globally. And whereas if you look at the older part of any city, it is all local material. So, on one hand, if you want to consider environment and build new cities, I would say that probably we need to go local. We have global as well as local. And if that is a kind of an understanding and how to convert it, and even the development control regulations are so standardized that uh, it is applicable to entire cities or entire country, and without considering the local elements. And the basic thing is air, light, and ventilation. I would look at it. So air, light, and ventilation is a local material, and let's look at that from that. How do we incorporate and how do we take it further? And I would look at that.
I think what is interesting to extract from this is are all these natural layers that you spoke about: air, light, ventilation, wind that comes in. And like in planning, you have two types of projects, right? One is greenfield, and the other one is brownfield. Now, a green field is supposed to be considered as a tabula rasa site. It is a literal green field, which means by the term green, it would have some ecological, base to it, a history of flora fauna that lives and rests in that space. The wildlife conflicts that we see increasing is because we are venturing into those kind of spaces. But we still call it like a clean slate. We say that it's a blank spot that you start from. And but what about these layers of ecology, culture, memories, of older tribal rights, properties, so many layers that somehow get missed out when the moment you term it as a greenfield property, because then are you really researching for what has happened here before? Or is it only a gridiron exercise for most planners? Ki chalo khach, 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 khach. It is easier to put in plumbing lines in a straight line and then connect them through joinery. So this is how you do it. Because in older times you had the beautiful mandu stormwater drainages that swirled and curled and then they came out, and that kind of beauty is lost in cities of today. So
Very interesting and challenging. And if I have to recall, I mean, let's look at I was in Petra in Jordan. And the interesting part is whatever little rain comes in the city is all captured through various forms of drains right above the structures and caves and everything. And then there is a central well which collects all the water from the city. And if you look at it, there was nothing straight, and everything had its own features. And that is one which I had seen, and I really like. Okay, there's something very different to kind of take away. So that's one part of it. It's possible
mm,
if the workmanship and if I have to use the Hindi word, the karigar, if the karigar decides that कि मेरे को ये करना है, so possibly it is a doable song. It's not that it is not non doable. And then I would go back to my own ancestral locations, say Thanjavur and Madurai and Krishnapalli, Pudukkottai. There you still found the open drains and then the water systems being collected. There was a central courtyard, and then you had your own well. And this is where I would, which we realized while doing Amravati capital city is, why should water sensitive be? Today you just open a tap or you carry a bottle and that's it. You don't even know the source, you don't know the process, and you don't know what the quality is as of today, unless it's been declared that this is what it is. So, water sensitivity for us, I still remember in my grandparents' place that when the water used to fall from the tiled roof, we all used to go to the central court and take bath. And that was a kind of an experience. And the best part was, whatever the water got drained out, there was a huge courtyard with all different kinds of, I would say, traditional plantations, and especially the banana, at least not single variety, no chemical, but natural kind of thing. And then we had our own, I would say, a kitchen garden, and it had its own system right from the hens and then the goats and then the cows and everything. So, water per se was one which was a value.
mm,
Today you will find what I mean, which is a normal language which keeps in brush करते वक्त भी नल चालू है. So those are few things I think it is missing, and it has been designed that way. But that is one part I would look at, and the other one which clicks to me is uh, all the cities wherever I have the traditional cities, they were considered, and there is nothing called a rectangle or a square. Very rarely, everything had its own shape. Even the properties which my relatives had, not a single one was a square plot, and everything managed along with the stormwater drain which emerged from their houses and also the pathways.
mm,
They were designed for humans and not for, I would say, the vehicles. And as my grandfather used to say, that my grandmother those days had an Austin car.
mm,
So it used to be there is a special place outside the huge house that it used to be parked. And since it had come from the along with my grandmother, it was taken care properly, and accordingly they didn't dismantle anything. Not a single piece of brick was dismantled. and even those small bricks. And everything was put up there, and that's how it was. And then subsequently, when people started buying two-wheelers and people started demanding, then the society and the community came together and decided that two-wheelers after some time will not enter the lane. It had to be parked out, and not all vehicles were taken care. And of course, emergency vehicles and other things they had created. So the pathways, I don't think we could see it, but only the joy which we all of us used to enjoy is the wind blowing through that channel. And we as kids, we used to sit down at a particular location in the afternoon. So I would say that everything was considered, and we used to open the door. The whole house would be kind of aerated proper with air circulation. Yeah. So I would look at it. It was considered then, but somehow today we are with the support of technology and AutoCADs and drawings and other things. I think we somehow start thinking very linear. The I would look at it, but it has implication on the human mind per se also. Like if a simple problem is given to you, you can solve it. But here, and maybe copy paste kind of a thing. But all the properties which I had seen as a child had its unique design.
Yes.
There were no straight, I would say, right angles given unless it was created. So I would look at that. Okay, somehow we are into a mass production stage, and losing out the artistry and losing out the uniqueness of the art of building. And today we are more standardized, and we are looking for design and copy paste from across the world somewhere, and then you create it. So material, of course, glass cladding has become a kind of a standard for commercial establishment, and then driven by technology. We can do any extent. AC hai na? You can go and do that, or exhaust fan. I would look at it from that angle. Anywhere in the house, you can keep a toilet. Whereas the so-called the knowledge of Vastu Shastra or whatever the traditional knowledge, we haven't used that. And coming back to the question of the Harappan and the Indus Valley civilization, I was part of a recent, Indian Knowledge Systems 2020 policy, and I was sharing my views in one of the colleges. And the young students were actually amazed that we have such rich heritage. And I think we need to also look at the academics, that how well can we manage to teach or revive these studies, rather than taking to students to the standard designs or whatever the new cities are, but also introduce them to the older part of these cities, and at least they learn how cities are being developed. I think it all depends on how we look at it, and what is the next gen we are looking for. I would look at it from that angle. And one point which you were saying earlier about the citizens, I would look at that environment per se. You will find whatever little R&D I did for Navi Mumbai or other cities is the environmental issue or the environmental perspective per se is people driven. There are PILs and there are litigations. There are, I would say, citizen groups which come about. For instance, the Lotus Lake, which you were mentioning about, it's all possible because the citizens feel a value of that space much more than once you are built and moved out. And it is nothing to do with the initial planning part, but people have to live in that area. So the value of those open and natural spaces, it could be also simple tree. I would say that people are getting sensitive because somehow I find the standard palm trees which is planted by the builders. The avenues, yeah, in the avenues, they're looking for, because you moment you plant a banyan tree or a peepal tree or a mango or a jamun, you will find the uh, chirping. Yeah, then the entire avenue changes. For instance, Delhi, Connaught Place, when you go, you have the jamun trees which is there, and every summer the contract is given, and you find the families looking at it. So it also helps the economy, and it also depends the informal sector to be involved in the entire. planning process. I mean, I would look at it for that.
I'm saying I'm fishing you out of water again
Yeah, yeah, please.
and putting you back to the original question, which was on air and AQI. So, with respect to planning, how do we ensure that we give our citizens, better air quality to breathe?
I think in the last couple of days, I find there is a lot of misnomer or lot of hue and cry about air quality and blaming the real estate and the developments which is taking place across the country. But there were a lot of videos and there were a lot of literature by I would say esteemed professionals who really said it is the mm, car ownership. And despite whatever we have followed, maybe EVs and other things, but the air quality is also disturbed because of the traffic congestions. Again, it's coming back to the vehicles, and one can easily observe even in Navi Mumbai, any cross section or a junction, you go and wait for half an hour. You put a simple linen cloth, and you see. And there was one of the NGOs which had done the study, and it could clearly indicated that the pollution from the vehicles, you could see that it is being absorbed by the linen. And in case of the planning process, for instance, in Navi Mumbai, less specific to it, or most of the cities and most of these sectors are undergoing redevelopment.
Mhm.
And this urban transformation, because of the connectivities, because of the conversion and the demand for, I would say, new real estate, you will find ground plus two and ground plus three structures going up to 20, 25 stories. So the construction time, when you see, you will find uh, the air quality is really uh,
Mm.
at stake.
Mm.
So there you one has to be careful. But
Yeah,
the
your city
EII,
is developing. Apologies for the inconvenience. Okay.
yeah, it could be in the one part. But what really happens is the development which takes place. It's always at a cost, and that has also a price for it. So both of them, I would say, going hand in glove. What needs to look at it, how well we can do. Of course, EIA reports have been saying that water spraying should be there, the air monitoring equipment should be kept at place. Despite all this, there is a in between phase one has to look at it, and then the climate of Mumbai or climate of any city where, especially Delhi or say Mumbai, and we are finding it during certain time of the day and certain months of the year are the ones where the AQI is really disturbed, despite keeping a lot of technologies at junctions and other things which NERI had done. But what really looks at it, even we as citizens, we need to be very clear that can we do something towards it, especially our vehicles. I would say, I keep telling, please maintain them. Go to your regular checkups,
PUCs.
PUCs. And if one is able to do that, probably yes, we can. And wherever the constructions are taking place, instead of getting in an agitated mode, because there are a lot of construction around my house which is happening. So I go to the contractor or go to the PMC and tell them, can you please help to regulate yourself? Immediately the roads are washed, the vehicle is clean, whatever is as per the specification. So I think it's a, if you want to enjoy the cities, if you want to get the fruits of urbanization, again, I would look at it. Then we have to be part of the planning process per se, rather than looking at the system, looking at others and saying somebody will do it. Not so.
Mm.
You have to be part of it.
Right.
That's my
Mm.
take on it.
Right. How about the layer of density? When you said people, that's what is the biggest problem for planners, right? That there's a critical mass, like you mentioned earlier. So, a critical mass which of Tokyo, New York, of Mumbai may be more or less the same, but how the people, the culture, the sociology, the economics of that place kind of works to suffice for that density.
So sorry. I think very interesting. See, each city, I look at it unique maybe physically they may appear same, the numbers may look ultimately the people, the culture there, the societal thing, the spending power, and the way things are happening in city, one has to look at it differently. And in case of the Indian cities, especially if I say Mumbai, I say Mumbai is, I would say, functioning operations and survival is because of the large density, and that too, most of it in the informal sector. I think if you formalize every thing, probably cities may not function so effectively, and and the new cities which are being planned, one wonders that if it can function through technology purely, or it would need certain human intervention. So density does matter because that is where the real economics is. Because you have a broad width, a band of various activities. So you need people to take care of it. So for that, every specialist in their own domain, it could be simple thing as a auto rickshaw or a Uber or a Ola. That's how it all functions.
Okay, so let us get back to this previous lineup and discuss about density again.
Yes.
Bola.
See, the question of density in case of cities, let's look at that from there. Is to do with the demography, and it is to do with the economic status and the competency of the cities. And these two kind of trigger the development and the, I would say, building of the city to accommodate new people. So demographics and economy. That's what I look at it as critical part for density. For instance, if you look at any city which has got low density, especially in the city center, either in terms of economics or in terms of demography. And the implication or the outcome of these two together, I would say, is the real estate prices.
Correct.
And the real estate prices, if it's in the center, the highest, I would look at it relatively is as a city which has got a relatively a good uh, demand and a good population base and economics. This is the relationship. One can look at it that way. And density per se in cities, you will find it's a, I would say, a radial city or a linear city like Mumbai, or if it is a shape which is a blend of both of them, you will find small pockets are created, and all this is related to the structure of cities and those kind of things. But the density per se would be related directly to the affordability. If people are able to afford, affordability not in terms of um, as a term, but as a practical kind of a indicator of the city's survival and city's economy. And why we talk about densities is it has implications directly on the infrastructure. It has infrastructure, right, starting from water, the solid waste and wastewater, also the transportation systems. So density per se, again, I would say, is a critical indicator of cities' growth and the competency. Or we always look at it in a very interesting format. Is, for instance, I'll give an example to kind of explain it. Is Gandhinagar per se, you will find it's a capital city, and the city center around the secretariat and around that area, you will find that it has got an inverse rent curve. Okay. Whereas if you look at Mumbai or you take as Navi Mumbai, you will find it has a gradual kind of a curve, which very clearly indicates that in case of Mumbai, for instance, now you have got three density zones, right? Starting from South Bombay, then BKC or Andheri Sakinaka. In case of Navi Mumbai, let us say Vashi is one big node, which is there. Belapur is another kind of thing, and Kharghar is an emerging node post the MTHL. So the density of any city is related to the kind of infrastructure, economy, and finally what employment opportunities are available. These three factors are very critical in putting the things together. On the contrast, what happens is these elements would put pressure on the natural environment because density means we will have more land. Either we need more water, natural resources, or if in case of energy, that means more energy demand. So we would look at from this angle that density and environment per se are, I would say, a close relationship. So when we are designing cities, or let's look at it right from the days when we were talking about the garden cities, and then we started moving. So suburban growth became one kind of a trend. Today, in case of say Mumbai and Navi Mumbai and the Mumbai metropolitan region, it is more or less flattening out. The ratio of the real estate prices are um, relatively the same, and they are narrowing. So earlier South Mumbai was very high, or I won't know the price. But Badlapur, for instance, had a steep curve. Today you will find the bandwidth is narrowing. Reducing. So that indicates that the demand for the city is expanding, but also is gradually growing, and it has implications from the within the administrative boundaries. But it has also, I would look at implications on the areas outside the Mumbai metropolitan region. So one has to, while planning, if one wants to expand outside, it has serious implication on the surrounding cities, the surrounding settlements, and the environment. So this needs to be kept in view that whether we grow either in the core, either we expand. These are the two, I would say, the basic forms of urbanization. So this is how the trend is. But urbanization, in fact, has implications on environment. Let's accept the fact and then move about accordingly and start identifying or looking for options which will not impact the environment so seriously. That
Correct.
becomes a clear.
Correct. Yes. But the next layer we'd like to discuss maybe is people, properties that they own, and the politics around it.
Uh-huh. See, what I would say, okay, let's look at real estate as property as one. The I would say the purchasing power, disposable income, and the housing loan facilities. I think these three factors are in the current scenario in the last about 25 years, what I've observed is triggering the a sense of acquisition of properties. Though a lot of videos are available that you should have rental properties, you should have this. I think it is good for listening. But finally, all human beings have tend to acquire assets because it gives a kind of mental satisfaction and a stability that in case of an eventuality, there is something to bank upon. So those things, I would say, in terms of investment, is one option. And the other one which I would look at is along with this asset creation approach, I would say, has been very, very traditional. You know, gold was one, the bullion market, and then currently you look for uh, the share market and whatever it is on mutual funds. But property acquisition and stability, it could be as far as like yesterday I was seeing one advertisement. Titwara 1 BHK 37 lakhs. I said, my God, that's the kind of an acquisition, and people are saying, no, it can be afforded. I was wondering when we were young, 37 lakhs, maybe proportionately less, but it was still a far cry. Today you have home loans and income and other things. So that's the second part. And the other one which you are looking for is politics. Politics. Ultimately, let's look at any policy matter or the word policy itself has an origin in politics. And urban planning, I would look at it in the recent past or since the post mid 80s has been a kind of a major political interest right from the chief ministers of different states. You will find the CM wants to be the urban development minister. So, what really it indicates that the value of the urbanization and its implication, because it has got a plethora of activities under it, right from infrastructure, land, and everything, and the transformation in the economy, especially after 1991. The urban areas have been in more demand because offices have to be set up, and then multilateral and international agencies are coming, MNCs are coming. So decision making ultimately remains with the CM, the direction of the or the trajectory of growth of any city or any area wants to grow, or the how the state should contribute. I think everything starts with that kind of a thing. And another interest which I have observed, at least in the Mumbai metropolitan region, the deindustrialization process. The industries are losing their sheen in the in the city per se. So, like for instance, the Thana Belapur industrial belt in Navi Mumbai, or the Wagle estate in Thane. See what really, and South Mumbai, of course, lost all the 55 textile mills. I think 55 only. So what we are looking for is what really happened is all is converted to real estate. That critical decision making, what needs to be done, ultimately the state, if it has to decide, at least in Maharashtra, it is happening for the last, I think, about 25, 30 years. So it matters that. So that's how I would say um, the politics of urbanization. Let's look at it. So that it is there, and it is linked to infrastructure. What kind of an infrastructure, whether we need metro, whether we need mono, whether we need EV vehicles, or whether what kind of a transit system needs to be created. Again, it is decided by the urban development department directly or indirectly, and finally goes to various institutions. I think the interesting part which I need to also mention is 70% of the urban population by 2050 is going to be in urban areas. No. So urban is the real future. So holding that, or within that, the political department, the politics of development holds that as a crucial part. So simple.
Yeah. I think what we discussed earlier were all the layers of creation of town planning as an opportunity. But once all of this is created, the last layer that is critical and important for its success is governance. So how do you integrate governance into the design of cities?
Okay, and I think it really, let's look at it from this angle. Okay, creation of a city has got, like any other capital asset, and city is a capital asset. It's got two parts. One is the capital asset, the other part is the operation and maintenance part of it. Typically in India, uh, the town planning, though under the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act and the 12th Schedule activity of 12, town planning is with the municipality. It is still regulated by the local issues, I would say, are still regulated by the corporation. But critical urban planning decisions are ultimately a state decision. So it has implications on that. But most of the local bodies in India and, of course, in Maharashtra are relatively well managed, and especially under the smart city. A lot of reforms, especially in terms of computerization and GIS, and creating kind of coordinated investment opportunities. I think that has transformed the governance platform across the country. I think it's a good move, but its result needs to be seen. Ultimately, I always say governance is an issue to be managed by human beings like you and me, and I may manage everything, but probably you may not. So I would look at it. It is not pure administration anymore. And with the changes across the different platforms or domains, everything is getting, I think, slowly integrated. And use of various technologies also, and especially reporting and monitoring. That has become online decisions, online complaints, online water bills or electricity bills, all this property tax, everything has become more or less now online. So that improves the governance of cities. So I would look at it from that.
So I think from this we move to the really like the closure and the last question that we have for you, which is amongst all these different types of or philosophies of designing a city, maybe sustainable cities, eco cities, smart cities, which is your favorite and why?
Uh-huh. It's a $1 million question and a difficult one. Uh, Having worked on, I would say, the normal city planning, and then worked on eco cities, and then working on smart cities or green cities or water sensitive cities. Uh, the bottom line, what I would look at is an integrated, though a lot of people say that integration and all this is not the right word, but technology currently provides all these platforms to be put together in one simple platform or in one simple block. So that gives a lot of opportunities and hope. For instance, I would look at it from this angle that if any government across the world is able to have good access to maps, which was a difficult story a few decades back, but you have access and online real time data is available. And I would look at it again the uh, taxi services which are available. It's online and it to the precision. So if those kind of data is available, I would say at least 80-90% of the job is done. Rest is the dimensional perspectives from an architect or a planner's objective give a permission. So even infrastructure can be, which is underground, can be tracked. Earlier it was not so. So I would look at that putting things together, and ultimately it could be any name you may give. It could be green, blue, yellow, whatever you are looking for, and people will start putting things together and may give the brand. Like when we were young, we were talking about Bonvita and Horlicks. I think that name, whatever the city you want to give, ultimately it will be a nutritious, healthy, and positive city. That's what I would look.
Learning from our experiences, learning from what works, what doesn't work, what people like, what they don't like. I think it's going to be a mixture of all the good things that we find in different systems and then we put it in together.
And technology gives you that, because I have at least a decade back, 2015, 2016, in the smart city, we were able to put all the platforms together and one single platform from command and control center. If really the cities want, and if there's a will and, I would say, interest, our cities will be kind of well monitored and reporting systems shall improve. So there's a good feedback from people also. So all platforms are available, and once it is available, I think the future generation and the future planners will be able to give us a better product than thing. And always comparing back and forth may be a tedious and a cumbersome job, and may be painful also. But whatever is the data available and whatever is the platform available, we'll be able to move forward.
Super. I think it was a very holistic and a conclusive discussion that we've had. We've romanticized traditional wisdom. We've looked at the aspirations through Kacha and Pakka. We've talked about the importance of ecology and understood the ramifications of if we do not give it the kind of reverence that it had in the past. There are so many levels and layers that we discussed, from culture to sociology to economics. We have a small token of appreciation from our side. This is a hamper from Hello December for you, which also includes some of the books that we've kind of curated and put together. This one on Pandey is something that I'm sure you would love. Yeah. It is a publication by. So this one on Panvel is actually a book that Professor Smita Dalvi and I put together, where we talk about the history, the ancestry of the place itself, and then build towards the future of urbanization that Panvel is going to see in the near future. And I'm sure that all the conversations that we've had and along with the research of this book, it's going to be a good read for you.
Thank you. I think I'm aware of this
Mm.
document and interesting. So we need to record those kind of thing. Always saying, coming back, thing is greenfield. It is brownfield. Only thing is the proportion and the squaredness of that is very important. But we will take it forward. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And it was a pleasure. Kind of, I would look at it digging and deepening my understanding about planning and the processes. And the best of all is it has rekindled, I would say, my thought process on whatever I have done so far. And look forward for more interaction so that I can share next time more. Thanks.
Super,
Thank
super.
you very much.
Thank you so much, Kedar sir. And with this, we will kind of dive into the next segment where we'll move into an architectural practice, step into their offices, and explore the last word of our podcast series, form, function, and future. We'll talk about futuristic design and how their practice and their philosophy kind of aligns with it. So stay tuned for more.